The lipstick stain on Jack's collar was unmistakable. I'd spent years buying him crisp white shirts, and now this vibrant smear of red mocked me from the laundry basket. My hands trembled as I lifted the shirt, the scent of unfamiliar perfume assaulting my senses. "Laura? Have you seen my blue tie?" Jack's voice echoed from our bedroom. I quickly shoved the shirt back into the basket, my heart racing. "Just a minute," I called back, trying to keep my voice steady. As I walked into our room, Jack was fumbling with his cufflinks, his back to me. "There you are. Can you help me with this? I'm running late for a meeting." I approached him, my fingers working on autopilot as I secured his cufflinks. "Another late night at the office?" I asked, unable to keep the edge out of my voice. Jack turned to face me, his expression unreadable. "You know how it is, Laura. The Johnson account is taking up all my time." "Is that so?" I muttered, handing him his tie. He raised an eyebrow. "What's that supposed to mean?" I forced a smile. "Nothing. Just, you've been working a lot lately." Jack's phone buzzed, and he glanced at it, a small smile playing on his lips. "I've got to run. Don't wait up for me, okay?" As he rushed out the door, I felt a knot forming in my stomach. This wasn't the first time I'd noticed Jack's unusual behavior. The late nights, the secret smiles at his phone, the emotional distance between us. It all added up to something I didn't want to face. I grabbed my own phone and dialed Rachel's number. She picked up on the third ring. "Laura? Everything okay?" "I need to talk," I said, my voice cracking. "Can you meet me for coffee?" An hour later, I was sitting across from Rachel at our favorite cafe, pouring out my suspicions. She listened intently, her brow furrowed with concern. "Laura, honey," she said, reaching across the table to squeeze my hand. "I hate to say this, but it sounds like Jack might be, well, you know." I nodded, tears pricking at my eyes. "I think he's having an affair." Rachel's eyes widened. "Have you confronted him?" I shook my head. "I'm not sure how. What if I'm wrong? What if I'm just being paranoid?" "You need proof," Rachel said firmly. "Have you considered hiring a private investigator?" The thought had crossed my mind, but hearing Rachel suggest it made it feel more real. "I don't know if I could do that," I admitted. "Laura, you deserve the truth," Rachel insisted. "If Jack is cheating, you need to know." As we left the cafe, my mind was reeling. The thought of hiring someone to spy on my husband felt wrong, but the alternative, living with this gnawing uncertainty, seemed worse. That evening, I sat alone in our living room, waiting for Jack to come home. The house felt emptier than ever, filled with the ghosts of happier times. When the front door finally opened, I steeled myself for the conversation ahead. Jack walked in, looking tired but oddly cheerful. "Hey, you're still up," he said, loosening his tie. I took a deep breath. "Jack, we need to talk." He paused, his smile faltering. "What's wrong? Are you having an affair?" The words tumbled out before I could stop them. Jack's face went blank, then twisted into a mask of indignation. "What? Laura, how could you even think that? You're never home, you're always on your phone, and today I found—" "Found what?" he interrupted, his voice sharp. I hesitated, suddenly unsure. "Nothing. It's just, we've been so distant lately." Jack's expression softened, but something in his eyes remained guarded. "Laura, I'm just busy with work. You're imagining things." As he walked away, leaving me alone with my thoughts, I couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning of a long, painful journey. The truth was out there, and I was determined to find it, no matter the cost. The business card felt heavy in my hand as I stared at the words, "Mitch Donovan, Private Investigator." I never thought I'd be the kind of woman who'd hire someone to spy on her husband, but here I was, sitting in a dimly lit office, about to do just that. "Mrs. Thompson," Mitch said, his voice gruff but not unkind. "What can you tell me about your husband's routine?" I took a deep breath. "He leaves for work around 7:30 a.m., usually returns after 9 p.m. Lately, he's been going on more business trips than usual." Mitch nodded, jotting notes. "Any particular days or patterns to these trips?" "They're often on weekends," I replied, the realization hitting me anew. "He says it's to avoid disrupting the work week." "I see," Mitch said, his expression neutral. "And you suspect he's seeing someone else?" I nodded, unable to speak past the lump in my throat. "All right, Mrs. Thompson, I'll start surveillance tomorrow. I'll need a recent photo of your husband and any other information you think might be relevant." As I left Mitch's office, a mix of relief and dread washed over me. I was finally taking action. But was I ready for the truth? The next few days were agonizing. I found myself jumping every time my phone buzzed, expecting news from Mitch. Jack, oblivious to my inner turmoil, continued his routine as if nothing was amiss. On Friday evening, as Jack packed for another business trip, my phone rang. It was Mitch. "Mrs. Thompson, I have some information for you. Can you meet me at my office in an hour?" My heart raced. "Yes, I'll be there." Jack looked up from his suitcase. "Everything okay?" I forced a smile. "Just Rachel. Girls' night plans." He nodded, barely interested. "Have fun. I'll see you Sunday night." An hour later, I sat across from Mitch, my hands shaking as he placed a manila envelope on the desk between us. "Mrs. Huff Thompson, I'm sorry to say that your suspicions were correct," Mitch said gently. I closed my eyes, willing myself not to cry. "Tell me everything." Mitch opened the envelope, spreading out photos. "Your husband has been meeting this woman regularly." He pointed to a striking blonde in her early 30s. "They've been seen entering this hotel multiple times this week." I stared at the photos, my world crumbling. There was Jack, my husband of 10 years, with his arm around a woman I'd never seen before. They were laughing, touching, kissing. "Do you know who she is?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Mitch nodded. "Leanne Carter. She works at your husband's firm. Junior partner, from what I gathered." Of course. The late nights, the weekend business trips. It all made sense now. "There's more," Mitch said, hesitating. "They're not in town this weekend. They left for a cabin resort upstate this morning." I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. "Thank you, Mitch. I need to go." I drove home in a daze, the envelope of damning evidence sitting on the passenger seat like a ticking time bomb. As I pulled into our driveway, I noticed a familiar car parked out front. Evelyn, Jack's mother. Great. Just what I needed. I plastered on a smile and walked inside, finding Evelyn in the kitchen, helping herself to a glass of wine. "Laura, dear," she exclaimed, too cheerfully. "I thought I'd drop by and keep you company while Jack's away. Isn't it wonderful how hard he's working?" I felt a surge of anger. Did she know? Was she covering for him? "Actually, Evelyn," I said, my voice steady despite my racing heart, "I know exactly what kind of work Jack's doing this weekend." Evelyn's smile faltered. "What do you mean?" I pulled out the photos and spread them on the kitchen counter. "Care to explain this?" Evelyn's face paled as she looked at the evidence of her son's infidelity. But then, something in her expression changed. Not shock or disappointment, but calculation. "Oh, Laura," she said, her voice dripping with false sympathy, "I had no idea, but you know how these things happen. Maybe if you'd been more attentive." I stared at her, disbelief turning to fury. She knew. She'd probably known all along. As Evelyn continued to make excuses for Jack, I realized this betrayal ran deeper than I'd ever imagined. It wasn't just my husband I was up against. It was his entire family. I hadn't slept in days. The weight of Jack's betrayal and Evelyn's complicity pressed down on me like a physical force. I was going through the motions at work, barely able to focus on anything but the shattered pieces of my life. My phone buzzed. Rachel's name flashed on the screen. "Laura, you need to get down here. Now." Her voice was urgent, tinged with something I couldn't quite place. "Rachel, what's going on?" "I'm at Chez Pierre. You know that fancy French place downtown?" She paused, her voice dropping to a whisper. "Laura, Jack's here. With her." My world tilted on its axis. "What? He's supposed to be on a business trip in Chicago." "Well, unless Chicago moved to our local bistro, he lied. Again." Rachel's tone was a mix of anger and concern. "Do you want me to confront them?" "No," I said quickly. "Just keep an eye on them. I'm on my way." I grabbed my keys, my mind racing. This was it, the moment I'd face Jack and his mistress in person. As I drove, I tried to calm my racing heart, but the betrayal felt fresh all over again. Chez Pierre came into view, its elegant facade a stark contrast to the turmoil inside me. I spotted Rachel's car and parked next to it. She was waiting outside, her face a mask of worry. "They're still inside," she said, squeezing my hand. "Are you sure you want to do this?" I nodded, steeling myself. "I need to see it with my own eyes." We entered the restaurant, the soft lighting and gentle music a mockery of the scene about to unfold. And then I saw them. Jack and Leanne were seated in a corner booth, their heads close together, laughing intimately. His hand rested on hers, their fingers intertwined. The sight of it made me physically ill. "Laura, wait." Rachel started, but I was already moving. I approached their table, my heart pounding so loud I was sure they could hear it. Jack looked up, his smile freezing on his face as he saw me. "Laura?" He quickly withdrew his hand from Leanne's, panic flashing in his eyes. "What are you doing here?" "I could ask you the same thing," I said, my voice surprisingly steady. "Funny, this doesn't look like Chicago." Leanne looked between us, realization dawning on her face. "Jack, is this your wife?" "Ex-wife, soon enough," Jack muttered, then winced as he realized what he'd said. I felt like I'd been slapped. "Is that so? And when exactly were you planning on telling me about this divorce?" The restaurant had gone quiet, other diners watching our drama unfold. Jack stood up, trying to guide me away from the table. "Laura, let's not do this here. We can talk at home." I jerked away from his touch. "No, Jack, we're doing this now. How long has this been going on? How long have you been lying to me?" Leanne stood up, grabbing her purse. "I think I should go." "Oh no," I said, turning to her. "You're part of this too. Did you know he was married? Or did he feed you some line about us being separated?" She had the decency to look ashamed. He said things were complicated." I laughed bitterly. "Complicated. That's one way to put it." Jack stepped between us. "Laura, please, you're making a scene." "I'm making a scene?" My voice rose. "You've been having an affair, lying to me for months, and I'm the one making a scene?" Rachel appeared at my side, her arm around my shoulders. "Come on, Laura, let's go. They're not worth it." As she led me away, I turned back one last time. "Don't bother coming home, Jack. I'll have your things packed and ready for Evelyn to pick up. I'm sure she'll be thrilled to have you back." We walked out of the restaurant, leaving Jack and Leanne in stunned silence. As the cool night air hit my face, I felt a strange mix of pain and relief. The truth was out, raw and ugly, but at least there were no more lies. Rachel hugged me tightly. "I'm so sorry, Laura. What are you going to do now?" I took a deep breath, my mind already racing with plans. Now? Now I fight back. They think they can just push me aside. They have no idea who they're dealing with. As we drove away from Chez Pierre, I felt a new resolve building within me. This wasn't the end. It was just the beginning of my fight for justice and self-respect. The morning after the restaurant confrontation, I woke up with a newfound determination. I'd spent the night packing Jack's belongings, each item a painful reminder of our shared life. Now I had one more confrontation to face. Evelyn. I drove to her sprawling suburban home, my hands gripping the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles turned white. As I pulled into her driveway, I saw her peering out from behind lace curtains. She knew why I was here. Evelyn opened the door before I could knock, her face a mask of false concern. "Laura, dear, what a surprise. Is everything all right?" I pushed past her into the foyer. "Cut the act, Evelyn. We both know why I'm here." She sighed, closing the door. "I suppose you've spoken to Jack." "Spoken? No. Caught him red-handed with his mistress? Yes." I turned to face her, my voice steady despite the anger boiling inside me. "But that's not even the worst part, is it? You knew. You've known all along." Evelyn's facade cracked for a moment before she composed herself. "Laura, you have to understand, Jack wasn't happy, and that justifies cheating?" I interrupted. "That makes it okay for him to lie to me, to make a fool of me?" She had the audacity to look annoyed. "Oh, don't be so dramatic. These things happen in marriages. If you'd been more attentive to Jack's needs." "Don't you dare try to blame this on me," I snapped. "I gave everything to this marriage. I supported Jack's career. I was there for him through everything. And this is how I'm repaid?" Evelyn's eyes narrowed. "What exactly do you want, Laura? Money? Because I can assure you, Jack's lawyers will make sure you don't get a penny more than you deserve." Her words hit me like a slap. "Is that what you think this is about? Money?" "Isn't it always?" She smirked. "Face it, dear, you're not getting any younger. Jack's moving on. Maybe it's time you did the same." I felt a surge of rage unlike anything I'd ever experienced. "You really are a piece of work, Evelyn. You raised a cheater, and now you're defending him. What kind of mother does that?" "The kind who wants her son to be happy," she shot back. "Leanne understands Jack's ambitions. She supports him in ways you never could." "She's half his age and his subordinate at work," I retorted. "But I'm sure that has nothing to do with it." Evelyn waved her hand dismissively. "Details. The point is, Laura, you've lost. Jack wants a divorce, and he'll get it, Why don't you just sign the papers and save yourself the embarrassment of a drawn-out legal battle? I stared at her, realization dawning. Papers? What papers? A flicker of panic crossed Evelyn's face before she schooled her features. Oh, didn't Jack mention it? He's already started the proceedings. The papers should be arriving any day now. My world tilted on its axis. They'd planned this, all of it. While I was agonizing over Jack's betrayal, they were already plotting to push me out of the picture entirely. I think you should leave now, Laura, Evelyn said, her voice cold. There's nothing left to discuss. As she ushered me towards the door, I felt a strange calm settle over me. You're right, Evelyn, there isn't anything left to discuss, but this isn't over. Not by a long shot. I walked out of her house, my mind racing. They thought they had me cornered, that I'd roll over and accept defeat. But they had no idea who they were dealing with. As I drove home, I made a decision. I wouldn't just fight this divorce. I'd make sure Jack and Evelyn regretted ever trying to manipulate me. It was time to show them exactly what I was capable of. I pulled out my phone and dialed a number. Hello, is this Mitch Donovan? It's Laura Thompson. I need your services again. We're not just gathering evidence anymore. We're going to war. The manila envelope sat on my kitchen table like a ticking time bomb. I'd been staring at it for hours, unable to bring myself to open it. The return address confirmed my worst fears, Jack's lawyer's office. With trembling hands, I finally tore it open. Divorce papers, just as Evelyn had warned me. I skimmed through the legal jargon, my anger rising with each word. Jack was seeking a no-fault divorce, citing irreconcilable differences. But it was the proposed settlement that made my blood boil. He wanted the house, most of our joint assets, and was offering me a pittance in alimony. It was as if our 15 years of marriage meant nothing, as if I hadn't sacrificed my own career ambitions to support his. My phone buzzed. A text from Jack. Did you get the papers? Let's make this easy on both of us. Just sign them. I threw the phone across the room, watching with satisfaction as it clattered against the wall. Easy? For whom? Certainly not for me. The doorbell rang, startling me out of my rage. I opened it to find Evelyn standing there, a saccharine smile plastered on her face. Laura, dear, she cooed. I thought I'd stop by to see how you're doing. Have you had a chance to look over the papers? I stepped back, allowing her into the house. Oh, I've looked at them all right. You must be so proud of your son, trying to leave his wife destitute. Evelyn's smile didn't waver. Now, Laura, don't be dramatic. Jack's offering you a fair deal considering the circumstances. Fair? I laughed bitterly. He's trying to take everything we built together and leave me with nothing. How is that fair? She sighed, as if explaining something to a child. Laura, you need to face facts. Jack has moved on. Now fighting this will only make things messier. Why don't you just sign the papers and start fresh? I stared at her, realization dawning. This was your idea, wasn't it? You put Jack up to this. A flicker of something, guilt, annoyance, crossed Evelyn's face before she composed herself. I merely advised Jack on what's best for his future, and frankly, what's best for you too. You're not getting any younger, Laura. A long, drawn-out divorce won't do you any favors. Her words hit me like a slap. I'd always known Evelyn didn't approve of me, but I never realized the depth of her disdain. Get out, I said, my voice low and dangerous. Excuse me? I said, get out of my house. I walked to the door, holding it open, and you can tell Jack that if he wants a war, he's got one. I won't sign those papers. Not now, not ever. Evelyn's mask of politeness finally cracked. Don't be a fool, Laura. You can't win this. Jack has the best lawyers money can buy. You'll lose everything. I stood my ground, meeting her gaze. Maybe, but I'll make damn sure he loses just as much in the process. As Evelyn stormed out, I slammed the door behind her, my heart racing. I leaned against it, trying to catch my breath. What had I just done? Could I really fight Jack and his high-powered lawyers? My eyes fell on the divorce papers on the table. With sudden resolve, I walked over and tore them to shreds. Then I picked up my phone, miraculously unbroken from its earlier flight, and dialed a number. Rachel, it's me. I need your help. Do you still have that contact in the DA's office? I think it's time we looked into some of Jack's more creative accounting practices at work. As I hung up, I felt a strange mix of fear and exhilaration. I was done being the victim in this story. If Jack and Evelyn wanted to play dirty, they were about to learn that I could play that game too. I may have lost my husband, but I was damned if I'd lose my dignity or my fair share of what we'd built together. The war was on, and I intended to win. The courtroom buzzed with tension as I sat beside my lawyer, Sarah, watching Jack and his team file in. Evelyn trailed behind, her face a mask of smug confidence. My stomach churned, but I forced myself to sit tall. This was it, the moment of truth. "All rise," the bailiff called as the judge entered. As the proceedings began, I couldn't help but feel like David facing Goliath. Jack's lawyer, a shark in an expensive suit, presented their case first. He painted me as a gold digger, trying to take advantage of Jack's success. I gripped the edge of the table, my knuckles turning white as I listened to the lies. Then it was our turn. Sarah stood, her voice steady and clear. "Your Honor, we have evidence that Mr. Thompson has been hiding assets and underreporting his income for years." A murmur rippled through the courtroom. I watched Jack's face pale as Sarah presented the documents we'd uncovered: bank statements, offshore accounts, creative bookkeeping at his firm. Evelyn leaned forward, whispering furiously to Jack's lawyer. "Furthermore," Sarah continued, "we have reason to believe that Mr. Thompson's affair with his colleague, Leanne Carter, began while she was his subordinate, violating company policy and potentially opening the firm to a sexual harassment lawsuit." I saw Leanne, sitting in the back of the courtroom, shift uncomfortably. Jack's lawyer jumped up, objecting, but the judge overruled him. As Sarah laid out our case, I felt a glimmer of hope. We had them on the ropes, but then Jack's lawyer called for a recess, huddling with Jack and Evelyn in the corner of the courtroom. When we reconvened, Jack's lawyer approached the bench. "Your Honor, in light of this new information, my client would like to propose a settlement." My heart raced as I listened to the terms. It wasn't everything we'd asked for, but it was far more than Jack's initial offer: a fair division of assets, a generous alimony agreement, and, most importantly, my name cleared of any wrongdoing. The judge turned to me. "Mrs. Thompson, do you accept these terms?" I looked at Sarah, who nodded slightly. This was more than we'd hoped for. "Yes, Your Honor, I do." As the judge made it official, I felt a weight lift from my shoulders. It was over. I'd won. Outside the courtroom, Evelyn cornered me. "You think you've won?" she hissed. "This isn't over, Laura. You've ruined everything." I stood my ground, meeting her gaze. "No, Evelyn, you and Jack ruined everything when you decided to betray me. I just refused to be a victim." As she stormed off, I saw Jack approaching. He looked defeated, a far cry from the confident man who'd tried to bully me into submission. "Laura, he started, but I held up a hand. "Save it, Jack. We're done here." I turned and walked away, my head held high. As I pushed through the courthouse doors into the bright sunlight, I felt like I could breathe freely for the first time in months. My phone buzzed. A text from Rachel. "How did it go?" I smiled, typing back, "It's over. I won." As I waited for a cab, I realized this wasn't just the end of my marriage. It was the beginning of something new. I'd stood up for myself, fought back against impossible odds, and come out stronger. The cab pulled up, and as I got in, the driver asked, "Where to, ma'am?" I paused, considering. My old life was behind me now. It was time to start fresh. "Take me to a real estate agent," I said. "I think it's time I found a new place to call home." As the cab pulled away from the courthouse, I didn't look back. The future was ahead, and for the first time in a long time, I was excited to see what it held. The key turned in the lock of my new apartment, and I stepped inside, breathing in the scent of fresh paint and possibility. It had been 3 months since the divorce was finalized, and I was finally ready to start my new life. I set down the last box and surveyed the space. It was smaller than the house I'd shared with Jack, but it was mine. All mine. My phone buzzed. A text from Rachel. "Housewarming party tonight. The girls and I want to celebrate." I smiled, typing back a quick, "Yes!" It felt good to have something to look forward to. As I unpacked, my mind wandered to the changes of the past few months. I'd thrown myself into work, earning a promotion that had been long overdue. The extra income combined with the alimony meant I could afford this place in the heart of the city, just a short walk from my office. The doorbell rang, interrupting my thoughts. I opened it to find a delivery man holding a large bouquet of flowers. "Laura Thompson?" he asked. I nodded, confused. Who would be sending me flowers? As I read the card, my blood ran cold. "Congratulations on the new place. We should talk. Jack." My hands shook as I set the flowers on the counter. How did he know where I lived? Why was he reaching out now? Before I could process my thoughts, my phone rang. It was an unknown number. Hello, I answered cautiously. Laura? It's Leanne. I nearly dropped the phone in shock. Leanne, what do you want? Her voice was shaky. I need your help. It's about Jack. Things have gotten complicated. My mind raced. Complicated how? Can we meet, please? I don't want to do this over the phone. Against my better judgment, I agreed to meet her at a nearby cafe in an hour. As I walked to the cafe, my nerves were on edge. What could Leanne possibly want? Was this some kind of trap? I spotted her at a corner table, looking nothing like the confident woman I'd seen in court. Her eyes were red-rimmed, her hands fidgeting with a napkin. Laura, thank you for coming, she said as I sat down. Let's cut to the chase, Leanne. What's going on? She took a deep breath. Jack's not who we thought he was. The creative accounting you uncovered, it goes deeper than that. He's involved in some serious fraud, and now he's trying to pin it all on me. I stared at her, stunned. What are you saying? He set me up to take the fall. There's an investigation, and all the evidence points to me. But it was him, Laura. It was always him. My mind reeled. Part of me wanted to dismiss her story as another manipulation, but the fear in her eyes seemed genuine. Why are you telling me this? I asked. Because you're the only one who stood up to him and won. I need your help, Laura? Sure. I have evidence that could clear my name and implicate Jack, but I can't use it without risking everything. You're my only hope. As she spoke, my phone buzzed again. Another text from Jack. We really need to talk, Laura. It's urgent. I looked up at Leanne, then back at my phone. The life I'd been rebuilding suddenly felt like it was crumbling around me. Jack was trying to worm his way back in. Leanne was asking for my help, and I was caught in the middle of a storm I thought I'd escaped. Laura? Leanne's voice broke through my thoughts. Will you help me? I met her gaze, my mind racing. This decision could change everything. Again. But as I opened my mouth to respond, I realized that no matter what I chose, the peaceful life I'd been building was about to be turned upside down. The question was I ready to face the storm once more? The shrill ring of my phone pierced the quiet of my apartment. Evelyn's name flashed on the screen. I hesitated, then answered. Laura? Evelyn's voice was frantic. I need your help. It's Jack and Leanne. Everything's falling apart. I closed my eyes, taking a deep breath. Evelyn, why should I help you after everything you've done? Because you're better than us, she said, her voice breaking. Please, Laura, I was wrong about you. We all were. Against my better judgment, I agreed to meet her at a nearby park. As I approached the bench where Evelyn sat, I was struck by how small she looked. Nothing like the imperious woman who had tried to bully me out of my marriage. What's going on, Evelyn? I asked, sitting beside her. She turned to me, her eyes red-rimmed. Jack and Leanne, they've been embezzling from the company. Millions of dollars. I thought I was protecting my son, but I've been enabling a criminal. My mind raced, connecting the dots with what Leanne had told me. And now they're turning on each other, I said softly. Evelyn nodded. Leanne came to me with evidence against Jack, trying to cut a deal. But Jack, he's threatening to expose her part in it if she talks. They're tearing each other apart, and I don't know what to do. I sat back, overwhelmed by the irony. The two people who had conspired to destroy my life were now destroying each other. Why come to me? I asked. Because you're the only one who saw through their lies, Evelyn said. You fought for what was right, even when it seemed impossible. I admire that about you, Laura. I always have, even if I never showed it. Her words hit me like a punch to the gut. After all this time, all the pain and betrayal, here was Evelyn asking for my help. What do you want me to do? I asked. Help me make this right, she pleaded. You have connections at the DA's office. You can help ensure they both face justice without destroying the company and everyone who works there. I stood up, pacing as I considered my options. I could walk away, let Jack and Leanne destroy each other. It would be the perfect revenge. But as I looked at Evelyn, I realized that revenge wasn't what I wanted anymore. Okay, I said finally. I'll help. But not for Jack and not for Leanne, for the innocent people who could lose their jobs if this explodes. Evelyn's relief was palpable. Thank you, Laura. I know I don't deserve your kindness. You're right, you don't, I said firmly. But this isn't about deserving, it's about doing what's right. Over the next few weeks, I worked with my contacts at the DA's office, providing the evidence Evelyn had gathered. It was a delicate balance, ensuring justice was served without causing unnecessary collateral damage. In the end, both Jack and Leanne were arrested. The company survived, though badly shaken. And I found myself standing taller, stronger than ever before. As I watched the news report of their arrests, I felt a strange sense of closure. The anger and bitterness that had driven me for so long began to fade, replaced by something else. Peace, maybe. Or perhaps just the quiet satisfaction of knowing I had risen above their pettiness and done the right thing. Evelyn called me one last time, her voice thick with emotion. "Laura, I can't thank you enough. I know it doesn't make up for everything, but I'm truly sorry for how I treated you. You're a remarkable woman." "Thank you, Evelyn," I said, surprised to find I meant it. "Take care of yourself." As I hung up, I looked around my apartment. The life I had built for myself, the career I had nurtured, the friendships I had strengthened, all of it was mine, hard-won and precious. I picked up a framed photo of myself, smiling at a recent company event where I'd received a leadership award. This was who I was now. Not Jack's ex-wife, not a victim, but a strong, independent woman who had faced adversity and come out stronger. As the sun set outside my window, casting a warm glow over the city, I felt a sense of excitement for what the future might hold. Whatever came next, I was ready to